My research focuses on the DNA analysis for the identification of poached species, and today we're looking at the ethical principles of this research. So poaching exists. It is the illegal hunting and selling of animals as well as plants, which people often forget. And the impacts of this problem are huge. There are economic losses primarily through unpriced ecosystem services. The profits made from this industry are accumulated in underground economies and not reinvested back into human or manufactured capital. And biodiversity is directly impacted, but the downstream effects also indirectly impact other groups. The imports and exports of these animal and plant species can be intercepted and examined for legality at national borders, but those shipments aren't examined nearly as much as they should be. So my research of interest aims to establish standard operating procedures for DNA extraction and analysis of a variety of species, and also to build a reference library so that when these shipments are intercepted and DNA is taken from either plant or animal there, we have a known sample to compare it to. The methods here would be DNA extraction, replication, and analysis, but the specifics for it would vary depending on the species we're looking at or the group of species. For example, cacti and agave in particular are hard to extract DNA from those, so they require specific steps to succeed. And the broader implications of this would allow us to identify species at ports and identify whether or not they were poached or legally traded. And knowing this would increase enforcement and actually make the enforcement much more effective. So the first research topic here is social responsibility. Social responsibility essentially means that a researcher's experiences, knowledge, and skills make them particularly qualified for a specific issue. And under this umbrella, there is the obligation to help, which has 4 steps to it or criteria. There is a critical need, proximity to the issue, the absence of other resources to help, and the individual has the ability to help without harming themselves. So in the context of this topic, there is a critical need because poaching contributes to deforestation, biodiversity loss, and climate change. But poaching also indirectly contributes to drug trafficking because the imports and shipments aren't examined nearly as much as they should be. So tackling poaching would directly influence the first 3 issues we talk about and indirectly help with drug trafficking. In terms of proximity, my background, my undergraduate degree is in forensic science, and one of the topics in forensics we talked about was wildlife forensics. So that's how I ended up here at this intersection of conservation and forensics. In terms of absence of other sources, there are genetic analyses of a variety of species happening right now. And there are reference libraries being made, but the actual application of this to poaching is limited. And of course, my ability to help would be at graduate level projects to be able to identify these species at the ports. My role would not necessarily be to enforce legislation. The second topic we have here is research subjects themselves. So animal subjects and human subject use is highly regulated. I didn't find anything for plants, but animal and humans, those are regulated. And under this topic, there are 3 R's. There's the replacement of the specimens themselves. There is reduction of the subjects, and there's refinement or eliminating pain in every step for the subject. So at a port, DNA is species specific, whereas morphological analysis at a port for like timber is not. So we use DNA, but what we can do is we can replace the subjects themselves with specimens from natural history collections to start on developing those standard operating procedures, but to actually identify the subjects at import or export, we can't replace those. It would require those specific animals or plants. And another note here is the seized animals are usually traumatized, so we can reduce the harm caused to them by rehabilitating them and rehoming them if they're unfit for the wild. But with genetic analysis, there is the potential of identifying the wild population, the wild source population, and actually return them back to where they were poached. And that is actually a project or the initiative that the Desert Botanical Garden is actually working on. So if you ever catch me in person, I will talk your ear off about this topic. But as of right now, that's all I have for you, and these are the sources that I used. Thank you.